Hello and welcome to our program today. My name is Ken Joelli. I'm with the University of Florida, St. Lucie County Extension Office, and we're here as an effort to inform the community about what we do in both St. Lucie County and in the University of Florida, and what we do here locally. We have a lot of activity going on, a lot of programs that you may or may not be familiar with. One of them is our Sea Turtle program, and I have a guest speaker who we'll be interviewing in just a minute, Monica Barrios, who we work with on sea turtle lighting. And Monica, I'm going to ask you a few questions in a few minutes. With the University of Florida, St. Lucie County Extension, we have a number of extension agents and program specialists who work in different areas, different focus areas. Myself, I'm in natural resources. I do a lot of work with water quality in the Indian River Lagoon. I work with pesticides quite a bit, invasive species. Some people have seen feral hogs and those red-headed agamas running around neighborhoods in Port St. Lucie. So I do a lot of work with those type of issues. And I also work with the Florida Master Naturalists. We also have colleagues at Extension that work with citrus and fruit crops and commercially working with producers. And then we have people that work with general homeowners on those sort of agricultural issues that might be related to dooryard citrus. And of course, we have our big 4-H program with several program specialists, and we're reaching out to the school system, and we have thousands of kids going through club activities. So we have a lot of activities going on. And our newest colleague is Carol Alberts, who's working with community resource development, so job training and things like that. So we have a lot of programs at the Extension Office, and one of the goals of this show is to try to help inform the community about those activities. So I have one of my very favorite people in St. Lucie County. Monica, I hope I don't embarrass you, but I really do enjoy working with code compliance and working with you, especially this time of year on sea turtle issues. And I know you probably dedicate quite a bit of your effort this time of year helping residents with sea turtle lighting issues.
Yes, sir.
So a little bit about the biology of sea turtles for people that might not be familiar with the whole issue. We have 3 species of sea turtles that are in St. Lucie County that nest on our 21 miles of beaches. There are 2 that are considered to be endangered and 1 that's threatened. All are protected by law. The threatened species that we have is the loggerhead. And we actually have several thousand nests per year that are laid by these massive sea turtles. But then we have some that are not quite so common. The green sea turtles, which are known for their green body fat inside of their bodies. And then we have the leatherbacks, which if you've ever seen a picture of a leatherback sea turtle, it's literally the size of a car. These things are huge, 1,500 pounds to 2,000 pounds. And they're also deep divers. And when I look at the biology of these animals, they're just so fascinating because they, except for the leatherback, they're cold-blooded. So they need to come on shore to lay their eggs and so forth. They mate out in the ocean, then they lay their eggs at pretty much the same beach where they originated from. So as we go through our program today, we're going to talk about what you work with related to sea turtles, and then we're going to interject a little bit about the biology of sea turtles. Okay. So one of the things that I wanted to know is, could you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do outside of sea turtle work, what you do for code compliance for St. Lucie County?
Sure. I've been working with St. Lucie County for 12 years, obviously under the Code Compliance Division, but I do mostly is the licensing investigating job for St. Lucie County, which that means that we'll go out and check the contractors, make sure they have their proper licenses, insurances, lots of customer service. I assist with code enforcement, and of course the sea turtle is one of the items or projects that I'm working with.
Certainly, and I'm assuming that all that keeps you pretty busy throughout the year.
Very busy, yes, sir.
So the whole idea of working with contractors and the licensing, we want to make sure that the buildings are safe.
Correct.
So could you expand a little bit more? Why is that important for 2 residents of St. Lucie County? I think I know why it's important, but maybe you can explain to them.
Sure. I mean, we want to make sure that the contractors are out there, they know what they're doing, that they're being contracted and they have their proper examinations, they have the proper insurances, They're also pulling proper permits for whatever the structures they're working in, and to make sure that everything is safe. Is mostly for the safety of our citizens.
So you have certain codes that have to be followed.
Exactly.
And those contractors should be aware of those codes.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And you go out and you make inspections from time to time.
Yes.
To make sure that the buildings that we're going to be using, living in, going to, doing our business in, that they're all safe.
Yes, yes. To make sure they're safe, structurally sound. I work closely with our building official and our building department to make sure that safety first.
Wow, that's pretty important.
Yes, sir.
I would imagine during hurricane season, especially if we have a windstorm event,
Oh yes.
your office gets inundated
Oh, yes.
with activity.
Yes, and code enforcement and the officers, they're always there. They're always supporting and they're assisting our supervisor and assisting us to make sure we do this job correctly. Yes.
So how many code enforcement officers are in St. Lucie County?
We have right now 4 code officers, and then I'm the licensed investigator.
Okay.
We work under Daniel Williams, our supervisor.
I know Danielle.
Yes.
Yeah, I like her. So, okay, so that's a lot of work for 4 people.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. And the reason that you get involved with the sea turtle issue, of course, is because of lighting.
Yes.
Which buildings have to be within code with their lighting.
Yes.
So could you explain a little bit about your role with sea turtle lighting?
Yes. Well, after there's a report that an outside consultant usually does, and we all get a copy of that report. So my end of it is the enforcement part of it. So there are rules, there's codes in St. Lucie County that that have to be followed for these lighting issues to make sure that we protect the sea turtles. So once your educational letter goes out, code enforcement gets involved, letting them know of the violations, giving them time to correct the violations. So we are more like the enforcement end of it.
Okay. And what are the nesting dates that people should be aware of?
Yes, it starts March 1st through November 15th.
Okay. So the majority of the sea turtle activity is going on. The biology, their nesting, the hatchlings and so forth, it's going on during that time of year.
Yes.
Every once in a while, I get a report of a sea turtle that's laying a nest in February or something like that. That's usually pretty unusual. And it seems like we do have a little bit longer season in St. Lucie County than some of the others. Martin County, I believe, their sea turtle nesting season ends October 31st. But just because the biologists have shown that they're still nesting and hatching a little bit later, we've extended that timeline out a few more weeks for the safety of sea turtles. So during that time, during the nesting season, March 1st through November 15th, there's a lot of activity going on, both with my office, with the outreach and education, and as well as your office.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. It used to be the majority of the activity was during nesting season, but we do meet outside of that.
Yeah.
It seems like we're doing debriefs at the end of the year, and then before we head into sea turtle nesting season, we meet again to kind of talk about what we need to do to get ready for the upcoming season.
Exactly, yes.
So, so those roles that you play with the nesting season, so let's say that a property shows up in a report with a lighting violation. How would they come out of compliance? What sort of compliance issues do you normally see, and what roles do you play?
Yes, a lot of the issues that we see is a lot of interior lights, from the apartments or the condo units. If they have a light on and they have the drapes open, it affects the beach area.
Yeah.
Of course, your exterior lights in the common areas, the parking lots, we have a lot of those as well. So we just want to make sure that they're properly shielded or they have the proper light bulb and things like that, so they could come back into compliance.
So your role is basically to make sure that all these lights come into compliance early enough in that sea turtle nesting season. They should all be in compliance on March 1st.
Correct.
They should all be in compliance.
Yes.
But what we noticed just from experience is that we have to send reminders out. And there are a lot of properties that are on top of the issue, but we do, it's every year we have to educate the community. And with 21 miles of beaches, we have a lot of new residents and a lot of renters that are on the first time on the beaches. So, it's always a constant process.
Yes, a lot of education.
Yeah. And one of the things about nesting season and the importance, this is where we get into the biology of this. With those 3 species of sea turtles, the loggerhead is by far the most numerous, but we do also have the leatherbacks and the greens. And I believe we do have a slide that will showing an example of a loggerhead sea turtle. And so basically what happens with the lights, and I'm telling you, but I know you know this, what happens with the lights is as the mama sea turtles come up out of the ocean to make their nests, they look for the darkest beaches. And it takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort to haul themselves out of the ocean. They basically, it's all on instinct. So when they're ready to lay those nests, they know it's time to come out of the ocean. The males, by the way, stay in the water. The females come out to lay their eggs. So what she'll do is she'll come out, look for those dark beaches, and then use her fins, her flippers, in a way that makes little cups, her back flippers. And she'll just make little cups and then scoop them out and push all the sand out the back. And the egg chamber is shaped somewhat like this. And she'll use her cloaca, once she's dug that egg chamber out, she'll use her cloaca and deposit about 100 to 150 ping pong ball sized eggs in that nest. And then she'll get out there and she'll cover it all back up again, turn around and go back in the water. And probably not come out again, until the next season. But sometimes when the beaches are too bright, it makes the sea turtle susceptible to predators. So unfortunately, we do have cases of feral dogs. We're only supposed to allow dogs on leashes on Walton Rocks Beach in St. Lucie, but sometimes, there are dogs that are loose, raccoons and so forth. And coyotes have also been an issue in especially northern St. Lucie County. So when there's excessive light out there, it makes the sea turtles susceptible to predators. There's also an instinct that when the mama hauls herself out of the water, if it's too bright from artificial lighting, she goes right back in the water again. And we refer to that as a false crawl. And then she'll have to come back out somewhere else down the beach and then lay the nest again. So that's the issue with nesting. But as we get into the middle towards the end of sea turtle nesting season, we also have to worry about the hatchlings. And one of the instincts that the hatchlings have is to stay in that cool sand until nighttime comes. And when the sand starts to cool down a little bit, they then come out of the nest en masse. So we might have 100 baby sea turtles hatching all at the same time. And their instinct is to look for the brightest moonlit horizon, which should be the Atlantic Ocean to the east of us. But when they come out of the nest at night, if there's a light in the background, something as simple as maybe somebody on the 10th floor of a condo that has their drapes open and they see a TV on in the living room or a nightlight, that can trigger an instinct where all those hatchlings go the wrong way. So that's why it's important for us to get that message out. And when the sea turtle hatchlings go the wrong way, they have basically enough energy in their stomach. They're born with their yolk sac in their stomach. They have enough energy in that yolk sac to make it out to the ocean to safety. Well, to a more safe location. But if they have to expend that energy going the wrong way, then they may not have the energy to do what naturally would occur. So that's why it's so important for you to work with the residents of St. Lucie County to get those lights within compliance. And one of the things that I really have to give you guys kudos on is you work with the residents. So nobody likes to hear code compliance. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys very much, actually. But everybody wants to think they're doing the right thing. So I think it comes as a little bit of a shock when they hear from code compliance that lights might be out of compliance. But the approach that you have taken in the years is to work with the residents. So I think people appreciate it.
Thank you.
And in the 24 years that I've been doing this sea turtle work, we've had a lot of people out of compliance, but we've always worked with residents to get them into compliance. So kudos to you and the residents.
Thank you.
So who else? What are the other roles? So I'm educating, you're out there doing code compliance, but what are the other roles that other people have?
Okay, so yes, you do the educational part of the group. We work, St. Lucie County has different departments that work on this project. So we have Mr. Richard Bushart with mosquito control and coastal management. We have Amy Griffin, Jennifer McGee, Benjamin Balser, and Amanda Thompson from environmental department. And then we also have Sandra Bogan from the environmental and outreach department. So in code compliance, I have my full support of my manager, Monica Graciani. So she's the manager for building and code, and of course Daniel Williams, our supervisor. So that's pretty much the group. There's so many other people that you know that work with us, and you know we're very thankful for that because, like you said, we need education, outreach, and I think that's what you know in the 5 years that I've been working with this. I think that's what's helped so much is the educational part of it and the outreach and making sure the reminders at the beginning of the season.
What my experience shows is that people want to comply, but sometimes they just forget, or sometimes they may not understand how to comply, or maybe they worry about safety and security and things like that. So, you know, we have a system set up in St. Lucie County that works very, very well to help people with those issues. So, so how serious is the problem with lighting compliance? And, you know, you've been working with this for 5 years. I've been working with it for a little bit longer. But in the amount of time that you've worked with it, have you noticed improved conditions for sea turtles? Or does it seem like every year we start back at the beginning?
No, I've seen improvements. I mean, we'll have some issues here and there. But, you know, I do see improvement, especially with the communication. We do see that once they're aware, they thought the lights were off or whatever, they'll make sure it's corrected. So they'll be in compliance, and you know they understand how crucial it is. You know, especially for the hatchlings, we want to make sure they make it out, they make it back to the sea. So we have a lot of people that are aware of that. You know, they are for the sea turtles. They're especially the people at the beach. You know, I've noticed that. That's what they want to make sure they are safe out there.
They take ownership in their beaches, and they take in our beaches, St. Lucie County's beaches, and they also love sea turtles. And the vast majority of people that I interact with, when they see a hatchling come up, or if they're fortunate enough to, you know, happen to see one on the beach, it is a life-changing event. They remember that for the rest of their lives. So, yeah, I think most people do want to comply.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
definitely.
I agree.
And every once in a while, I run into somebody, though, that doesn't understand why it's important for them.
Yes.
You know, why is it important for us to comply with lighting? And sometimes I have to bring it right back around to the individual person and how it can benefit them to comply with lighting. And those huge sea turtles that I was talking about, the leatherback sea turtles, they eat the simplest organisms out there, which are jellyfish that could sting people.
Yes.
So if you have a 1,500-pound animal, could be a 2,000-pound animal, eating so many jellyfish out there, well, that's that many fewer jellyfish that will sting people's families, you know. So sometimes you have to bring it around to the actual benefit to people.
Yes.
So what are the penalties? Like, let's say that, you know, we've already talked about how you work with residents to come into compliance, but let's say that somebody is not in compliance for some reason. What is the process for penalties? What's being done?
In St. Lucie County, it is a code case. It's ultimately a code case. So the way that we would move forward if they don't come into compliance, they will go before a code board, and then they will go to a fine hearing. And you know they'll still have time to come into compliance, but if they ultimately don't, then they could get a fine. It could go up to $5,000 to $10,000 depending on the property. So $5,000 will be residentials, and then the $10,000 will be your condos because considered commercials. So it's pretty high if they don't come into compliance or they let it get to that point.
And the reason that we have this whole system in place is because of the Endangered Species Act. There have been some reports in other counties where code compliance was not able to get properties into compliance. And it has actually triggered the U.S. Endangered Species Act, where properties have had to have their lights pulled. Somebody told me about a gas station that was a new build on the beaches up in Melbourne. And U.S. Fish and Wildlife gave plenty of warning. The code compliance up there gave plenty of warning. Get your lights into compliance. You're endangered sea turtles. And they just refused for whatever reason. And literally Fish and Wildlife turn the lights off. You know, luckily we've never had that happen in
Right.
St. Lucie because we've got a system that works. So, so over the past few years, do you think there's been increased awareness of the need to comply with
Oh,
lighting?
definitely. Yes, yes. Yeah, I've noticed that when I speak to the, you know, the property managers and things like that, they, for whatever reason, it wasn't done when the report or when the surveyor came out to do, you know, the report. They're right on it. They wanna make sure everything's taken care of. So, oh,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Most people want to help.
Oh, yeah.
I always kind of think everybody's on the same side. Sometimes not, but yeah, I like to think that. So what can be done to improve lighting compliance? And maybe the process that we use and what can be done to improve lighting compliance from the residents and the businesses' point of view?
I think what we're doing is amazing. The outreach, the education. I think that's more of that is great. You know, maybe before the season starts, something to go out to them, just to let them know, hey, remember, season's coming. So, you know, just outreach, continue with the outreach. You know, you do such a great job.
Thank you.
So, yes, I think that helps a lot.
Yeah. And as far as the actual properties themselves, is there like a standard problem that you're seeing that could be improved? You know, like are we seeing lights that are consistently on or problematic throughout the season?
Yes, we'll always have those that are the same thing for whatever reason, a lot in the common areas. And I think it has to do with a lot of the safety, as you mentioned before. But like I said, it's just communication with them, you know, continuing communication with the condos out there or even the property owners out there.
And, you know, when I've worked with some of our contractors, it's been very informative. You can shield the lights so the light is going straight down. Instead of glowing towards the beach, which could be seen by sea turtles, you can put the light lower to the ground. You can use lights that are amber in color to reduce that white light. So, and then of course you can just shut them off.
Right.
So there's a lot that could be done
Yes.
to improve the lighting. So, so what is the track record for compliance?
Well, we've always have everybody come into compliance, and through the years, they're coming into compliance faster than, you know, we want them to be in compliance at the beginning of the season, of course. This year so far, we've been doing great. I mean, we have about 32 violations out there, and we've have half of them already contacting us, getting with the outside consultant, making sure that, you know, they're getting to compliance. And I want to say about 4 or 5 are already in compliance. So I think we're going to have a really successful year this year. I mean, hopefully faster than the middle of the season.
Yeah, that's human nature, I guess.
Yeah.
But everybody should be in compliance March 1st, but human nature shows. So if they have received a code compliance violation on the beach, what they would send a report to you, or?
The way we're handling is they will definitely contact me, and I'll make sure that they get with the outside consultant, because ultimately he's the one that's got to let us know, yes, everything is good to go now. So I will refer them to the outside consultant, or they would have to provide us with a report. If they choose to have somebody else do their report, that's fine. But we will need it in writing to let us know that whatever was wrong, they fixed. And they, you know, they love to comply, so they contact the outside consultant. I'll get the email letting me know that everything is good to go, and we close the case.
So are we on track this year for another good
Yes.
lighting compliance?
So far, it seems like we're doing pretty good.
But we're still in June.
Oh, yes.
And you and I know from experience that as we go further along, then all the hatchlings start coming out. And then we get all those hatchling disorientation reports. And what comes to you and I, we both get those reports as a courtesy. I don't think anybody's required to give those reports to us. I think they just give them to us as a courtesy because we do the outreach to help improve the condition. But on this report, they actually have a map of where the beach, where the nest is on the beach, and they have a map showing all the tracks and the directions that the tracks went in. Could you describe that report from your point of view?
The report from the surveyor?
Yeah, you know, they have those scouts that we don't know who they are.
No. If you're talking about the disorientation
Yes.
report, yes. Yeah, we get those, and then it'll show us exactly how the sea turtle tried to come in and he came back out, and they'll let us know around what area that happened because obviously there is an issue there. The turtle didn't finish for a reason. It could be for lighting. There's obstacles. We don't know. So that's something that we will look into. But it has a lot of details on that report.
Yeah, it does. And then we also get those hatchling disorientations where we might have like 20 or 25 tracks that are all going the wrong way.
The wrong way, yes.
You know, and sometimes on those reports they actually identify the properties. You know, so we'll work with them. Usually what I'll do is I'll send a courtesy letter to those properties letting them know that they've been identified in the letter or in that report. But you know, I'm not code compliant, so I don't you know, I don't have any enforcement action. So do you have a sea turtle related success story?
Not a specific story. I mean, the fact that, you know, they're coming into compliance, they are working with us, all the property managers, the condos, you know, that to me is successful enough. You know, we want to make sure that they're out there, they're aware that, you know, we're all working together.
What's your most memorable time? I think I know what it is.
Yes.
But what is your most memorable time?
It's that one time we went to the beach at night to look at one of the condos. And there comes a sea turtle just
like right in front of us.
Walking alone, just in front of us. So that was I've never seen one.
Yeah.
So that was very memorable.
And you know, the whole time that I'm going to be alive, I'm going to remember that night because it was so unusual.
Yes.
But we were out doing our job. It just happened to be at 11 o'clock at night.
Yes.
You know, sometimes, you know, this is not an 8 to 5 job.
No. And an amazing creature just walked in front of us.
Just happened to be there.
Yes.
So I appreciate you spending time with me today, and the audience, I'm sure, appreciates the work that you do and code compliance does, not only for sea turtles, but all the other stuff that you guys do with contractors and making us all safe. So at this time of year, it's just so critically important that those properties get into compliance on the beach. And the way the code reads is when you're standing at the primary dune, and that's where the sand meets the vegetation, and you look west, when you see any lights, except for the airplane lights, you know, the red lights glowing at the tops, we shouldn't see any lights at all. So, and that's hard to do. So, you know, the work that you do, the work that the whole team does is very much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hopefully we're on track for another record year. A lot of sea turtle nesting.
Yes.
So, thank you. So, thank you for joining us today. My name is Ken Joelli. I'm with the University of Florida IFAS St. Lucie County Extension Office, and we're here to serve the community to teach you about wildlife issues such as sea turtles and sea turtle-friendly beaches. And we're also here to work with you on issues such as horticulture, 4-H youth development, even personal finances. If you have issues that you need help with personal finances, we've got people that can help. Food nutrition is another issue that we can help with. So if you need to reach us, we're available on the internet. You can go ahead and look through your search engine at IFAS St. Lucie County Extension, or you can call us at the number on the screen, 462-1660, and we will do our best to provide a service to you. And Monica, thank you very much for being with us, and thank you for joining us today.